morning. If we could have a pledge of allegiance, will be led by the representative and Chairman Pickett.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we sit down, I'd like to have a moment of silence for all that have lost their lives abroad and in the U.S., please. Thank you. I mean, we keep them all and their families all in our thoughts and prayers. Distinguido, ¿cómo está? ¡Qué milagro! Mira, qué milagro! I know.
I'm not here.
¿En qué vas a votar ahora? ¿Qué necesitas votar ahora que viniste?
Tonight I'm in here.
All right, we're ready. Now that we've been honored. You know what? I'm sorry. All right, we start with?
We're going to go ahead and start with discussion action item number 2, and that is the nomination election of the new chairperson.
All right. Judge?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
As is customary, I'd like to nominate Mayor Madeline Prano to be our chairman.
Thank you. Mayor Prano?
I am honored to be nominated. I appreciate it. However, after 5 long terms
Short term.
and 10.5 years, I have decided to retire from politics, and this will be my last term. So,
Good job. Great job.
thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we not allow Mayor Prano to retire.
I second that.
Man, that's why I came. I came to vote for her.
I know.
Thank you, thank you.
Mayor, do you mind, can we have a little discussion on that?
Yeah.
I want to third the judge's motion. Madam, when would your term as mayor
Will end
expire?
on November 8,
So it's a few months.
4.
3.
I mean, it kind of,
It
it kind of caught me by surprise. The only reason I say that with some of the continuity that we're trying to maintain here, and this is obviously up to the board, and there's a nomination on the floor, but you decline at the moment. Would you be willing to withdraw that and be the chair now that we know that, and give us a few months to work in whoever's nominated or elected as vice chair or?
Okay. Do I have to? I don't have a
Well-
choice. Okay, I will do. I will.
I mean, I know that Mr. Medina and others, staff, you've been chair of the executive committee. It's customary, as the judge said, because that person is involved with a lot of day-to-day businesses, and it is a surprise to me that you're wanting to retire. But again, it's up to the board. I think we should still consider electing you the chair, knowing that in November we'll have another election. I don't know if anybody feels the same way or what.
I think that'd be up to Mayor Prano if she would like that.
Well, that would also prepare us and
I
whoever else
understand.
to be ready in November.
I understand. I'm sorry for the blunt delivery, but I will accept the nomination for the remaining of the term.
And can I make a recommendation also? Maybe since we normally make the leadership decisions at this point in our year, maybe we identify the next chair and vice chair so
Yes.
that they can all work together for a much smoother transition so that it's not abrupt in November?
I have no problem with that.
And,
Well,
and, oh, I'm sorry, Mayor.
I think who I nominate, right?
Yeah.
You can?
Okay. This is a
Well-
lovely table.
Well, we haven't disposed of the first item. but-
Let's go ahead. I think maybe we'll vote on you.
Okay.
If we have a motion and a second, and then we'll take the second item as you proposed, Judge.
And may I just say just something about Mayor Prano before we cast the vote? Mayor, I think probably everybody at this table would agree that you are such a pleasure to work with. You are always so positive. You always have a smile on your face. You're always ready to work, and your incredible legacy for your community, among so many accomplishments of yours, has been that you modernized some fundamental infrastructure for your citizens after huge battles, after huge adversity, and it was your tenacity and your determination to ensure that your residents had access to what the rest of us have access to. That was what helped you accomplish that goal, and I'm gonna miss working with you very much.
Thank you so much. You're making me feel sentimental.
And all we have to do is read the minutes now in November.
All right. Thank you for that, Judge.
Let it sink in.
I would second your thoughts. That's great. I really appreciate that. And with that, we have a motion and a second.
To the chair, can I make a comment here? This will be, if I understand what's on the floor, the first time in my experience where we will be electing a, so to speak, chairman in waiting. And so there's no provision for that in the bylaws.
So we can't do that?
My recommendation is, let's go ahead and go forward with the election of the chair. If and when she resigns or retires, at that point, I think we should go ahead and elect another chair at that point. Otherwise, we're gonna end up with two chairs at the same time, and there's no
You're
purpose.
illegal. That's what we pay you
Miss-
30 bucks an
Mr.
hour for.
Mr. Medina, I have a question for you. So I think part of the reason why I'm recommending that we identify who the next chair and vice chair would be, as Chairman Pickett mentioned, we want continuity. And so if we could at least have a discussion about that, and then that way Mayor Prano and whoever the vice chair is, or I don't know how it's gonna work, but just so that people are working together so that we have that continuity in November. Otherwise, we're exactly in the same spot in November that we are today.
Right,
where-
and I don't have a legal objection
don't
to
take it.
having a discussion about that. I just have a problem with you all taking action to elect two chairs at the same time.
Can we elect two vice chairs?
So,
Or two vice chairs
Liam.
as well, you know.
my question is, if we elect the vice chair, will the vice chair ascend to chair at the end of November? Or will be elected?
My understanding is that when that happens, you all will have an election to
okay.
replace,
The vice chair.
no, the chair.
What, if she's
Because-
serving in chair and she just notifies the board that she's retiring and no longer eligible to serve on this body, the vice chair would assume the responsibilities, and then we would have another election.
For purposes of presiding over that one
Right.
meeting and then turn over the meeting to the
Right.
new elected chair.
the-
But we would have an election for a chair and a vice chair at that time.
No, just for the
Just the
chair.
chair.
Chair. And then we would leave the vice, well, it could, it possibly. could.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, depends who
Okay.
she appoints.
Because I was thinking.
And she may change her mind before November anyway.
Well,
That's a possibility.
Now, what I was talking to the judge a little bit, and we'll take action on this and then move forward, but one of the things, I do want to nominate Joe Moody for vice chair. And the reason, I think he'd make a great chair, but not in this coming term because they go in the session. But I'd love to see him as the vice chair coming forward, and not in November as the chair either, but in the following year after they're not in session also. So,
And
Thank you.
thank you, Mayor, and I completely agree. And my recommendation in November would be that our great mayor from San Elizario be nominated as chair, And so, obviously, we can't vote on that now, but I would be making that recommendation or that nomination. And Mayor, if you would be willing to serve. And then, if there's no objection, maybe Mayor Sanchez can begin working with the chair so that in November, when we have a vote, it's, there's some continuity, but I know we can't vote on that.
Right.
If I could just, with that or that nomination, I should say, I'm extremely honored that you feel that way, and I know that a lot of people on the board don't really know me, and might be wondering why in the world her, especially since I'm relatively new. But I do want to let you know that I've been committed to training on a regular basis and really learning all I can. So my first interest is what's best for the region as a whole. So
And
that being said.
Thank you for that. And I think you've done a good job, and you've demonstrated. I think the ethics training that you put on this week was a great example of some great leadership, and it was a great training, and I thank you for that.
Thanks.
And with that, we have a motion and a second. No, we're gonna vote. No, we're gonna vote for first motion first.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank
First motion is to elect Mayor Prano till she decides what she's doing.
So we circulate the petition to make her stay?
Anyway, we have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, the second motion is to elect Representative Moody to vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And with that, I'm going to do my final. There, it's yours.
Gracious.
Huh? You don't want to go where I'm going, I promise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me have. All right. Next is open forum. Open comment?
Oh, before I leave, I do want to congratulate, and I apologize I didn't see you come in. I want to congratulate you. Great. Congratulations on being
Oh,
the
yes.
first one ever for the state of Texas, the commissioner. So I want to congratulate you, and great job you do. So congratulations.
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am.
That
I
is
appreciate-
great.
thank
Thank you so much. Well, thank you. Your
Public comment. So we have public comment from Mr. Mike Rooney.
Oh, nothing right now. I owe Mayor Prano 2 minutes from 2 months ago.
All right. Anybody else?
This is for item 5, right? And the other two are for item 5. So we can go ahead and continue with item number 4. And that is discussion action for the appointment of the 2016-2017 Executive Committee members.
I have to do that, right? I am not prepared.
Do you want to delay it to the end?
Yes, can we delay this till the end of the meeting? Sure. So that I can think. Oh, my
Okay.
goodness. I think we can.
Are we going to take item number 1?
Yeah. Then we'll go back to item number 1, and that is discussion action to approve the minutes for the June 17th, 2016 Transportation Policy Board meeting. We have a first and a second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? Motion passes. Next item.
Next item is number 5, and that is for discussion action to approve the recommendation from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee for the active transportation system and authorize the Transportation Policy Board chairperson to execute a resolution for the active transportation system.
Hello, good morning. Alexandra Rosillo, the Regional Transportation Analyst for the Paso MPO. I am very excited to present to you today a presentation on the Active Transportation System Planning, which is a multimodal approach to the planning process. So I think you do have a copy of it. If we want to begin today's presentation, we're going to have an overview of the region and some fast facts for you. We're going to talk about the planning process and next steps after that. As we know, we work closely with Las Cruces, and some fast facts about them is that they are the second largest city in New Mexico, and they were the #1 expert growth providers in 2014. And some facts about them is that their population, as we all know, is close to 300,000, and only 3.5%, or a little over, close to 4.5% of them actually choose transit, walking, or biking as their mode choice as for their everyday commute. And here in El Paso, we fall below that. We are the second largest city on the border. Close to 3.5% of us choose transit, bike, or walk as they're commuting. For an even greater fact is that our sister city, Ciudad Juarez, has a population of 1.4 million, and half of them actually choose transit, bike, or walking as their everyday mode choice for their commute. So keeping those facts in mind, we want to go ahead and move into the planning process, talking about the metropolitan planning. Is a process of examining travel and transportation issues and needs in the metropolitan area. And when we examine the needs and the demographics of the growing community, the examination of these patterns and trends actually help plan for the demands of the region for today, and it actually provides us and forecasts for the needs of tomorrow. So that's just a little review of what we do every day. It brings us to a great vision that mentions a seamless and reliable multimodal network which enables connectivity, promotes quality of life and economic well-being, and preserves the human environment. And we like to call this our working vision, which gives us an inside look and approach to what we like to call the interconnecting blocks located on the right side of the screen. It includes community and region. So let's get started on the first working block within the community, in its goal to build and maintain safe and healthy communities by formulating, prioritizing, and encouraging investments anchored in integrated transportation to revitalize multimodal corridors. As we hear about that, we like to give a good example of the Horizon City project, Safe Routes to Schools project, which is in, as we know, Eastlake, and it provides the safe amenities to pedestrians, parents, and children, bike paths, bike storage areas, signage, lighting, and landscaping. So this is just an illustration of what within the community example already provides us. Moving into the second interconnecting block, community to community, we talk about its goal of providing enhanced planning processes that establishes greater choices for mobility for all generations, improving travel time reliability, and increased economic opportunities for quality of life. In its objective, it adheres to the needs of the community, and improving on those needs in a safe and sustainable way enables multimodal connectivity between employment, neighborhoods, parks, shopping areas, and schools. A very successful example would be the Sun Cycle bike share, which we all know provides 80 bicycles amongst the 80 areas throughout downtown. We also know that it provides the connectivity between educational institutions like EPCC and UTEP. Projects like this are so successful, and they move easily into expansion from community to community. Moving into our third interconnecting block of community to region, with the goal of connecting communities in the region by providing multimodal travel options to economic, recreational, and public centers. The objective here is to advance mobility and development in order to preserve, maintain, and provide reliable travel time. Brings us to a very good highlight of the presentation, talking about the international bike share concept, which actually includes not only community to region, but region to region. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, those statistics of nearly half of Ciudad Juarez actually choose different modes other than vehicles. This example clearly illustrates that one region is very receptive to the other region's pedestrian travelship needs that positively impact one region to another. Successful bike share programs such as that will, in fact, enable us to connect Sunland Park, New Mexico to their educational institutions all the way back to El Paso, and start planning with Fort Bliss, area school districts, and other interested parties. Brings us to the last block, region to region, which is actually the highlight of today's presentation as we go into the active transportation loop. By expanding economic opportunities, by investing in regional infrastructure, including historical sites that are reliable and attracting people of all ages. This objective here is by enhancing travel and tourism, we could reduce on air quality emissions that are detrimental to our non-attainment area and save energy. And at the same time, reduce delay on critical regional thoroughfares. Region to region. So before I get into the map, let's talk about the active transportation loop and how this actually will be provided throughout the process. We're going to put a lot of emphasis on the word branding. And by branding, it's a designation, a route decision that can be established and then recognized as a destination. So let's get into the map. As you have here, the active transportation system, and we highlighted them in certain colors. Starting with orange, we start with Las Cruces. This is called the Avenida de Estrellas, which we all know. Juan de Oñate Trail, which brings us and takes us along the beautiful route of the pecan orchard. Another trail, the River Trail, which we all know that runs parallel to the river, taken at any times of the year through seasons. And it takes us even closer to the International Beltway, close to the border, which we all know we could see the great, beautiful Cesar Chavez National Park. And also, we could go through the Mission Trail, which is in the red, located at the Star area. It takes us to the beautiful San Elizario, Socorro, and Isleta missions. Headed north, Paseo de Este. Or you could drive northeast through the Solstice track. Either way will get you to Warrior Way, located in the green. It could also eventually take you to Waco Tanks. As we go through Warrior Way onto Fort Bliss and through Biggs Army Airfield, we have some choices here. We could go through Biggs Army Airfield and end up in the Anthony Gap 404, which is already a designated bike path, as you can see here. Or you could take another route, which is located in dark blue, the Trans Mountain Trail, that eventually takes you through the beautiful Franklin Mountains. So, as I talk about that, I just want to give a quick review on the active transportation loop.
Commissioner, Camino Real de Adentro, that doesn't seem to be mentioned here, and that seems to me a good connector between El Paso and Las Cruces, at least,
It does.
to refer to it.
Mhm. And we're continuing on this loop, and we're expanding on all cultural sites, and we want to mention just some today. But once we get together and start talking about it, we can expand and broaden the routes and maybe even incorporate one into the
So that's
system.
a major one.
Definitely.
And leave it out.
And when I talk
Thank
about,
you.
sure, thank you. And when I talk about branding, I just want to mention that it's a designation to significant destinations while actively highlighting important nodes of cultural assets and history. The different communities and regions naturally and already sustainably bring us. All we need to do, and I think it's all time that we do, is properly brand these destinations. And with this, we promote quality of life, healthy activity, accessibility, mobility, infill development, tourism and travel, historical cultural assets, new business opportunities with private-public partnerships. And as you may be asking, so what's next? Develop action plans for roadway, transit, international ports of entry, and of course, consider all board recommendations and direction. And by seeking grants to to accelerate the active transportation system, we will look into the Tiger Grant, a competitive program that funds projects investing in surface transportation infrastructure, and work with organizations such as the Big Jump People for Bikes, which provide grant assistance, training, resource access, research assistance, networking experience, and media recognition. So with that said, I would just like to thank you for your time on this presentation on the active transportation system. And if there's any questions or comments, feel free to ask.
The judge would like to make
Sure.
some comments.
Thank you for that presentation. I want to thank Mike and the TPAC. Some of you may be aware that the county's been working for some time on a county line to county line trail, essentially a walk, hike, bike trail from where the river trail leaves off all the way actually to Tornillo, including the wetlands and other cultural sites. We've also separately been working with leaders like Representative Gonzalez, Mayor Leeser, Mayor Sanchez, Mayor Ruiz, and the Tiguas and others on a Mission Trail revitalization project to finally try to achieve what we have not been able to achieve for a long time in our community with regard to the Mission Trail. And so when Mike and I had a conversation about this, and he told me about what you all were working on, it's so perfect because essentially much of the work that needs to happen with a county line to county line trail can happen through your process. Public input, making sure that stakeholders are involved and at the table, making sure that all cultural assets and important sites are connected and incorporated. And ultimately, I think if the vision could be that we do connect with the Las Cruces or with the New Mexico River Trail, that trail, which is conceptually supposed to go from Colorado all the way to Las Cruces, if we could connect with that, I mean, if you all can imagine the incredible asset we would have in the Southwest in terms of the connectivity of these trails from Colorado all the way to Tornillo, and this would be the vehicle for that, I think. So it's very exciting. I feel great that so much of this can be turned over to the MPO for a very thorough vetting and process. And so I would make the motion to approve. I love it. Thank you for it.
Go ahead.
That's very good. You second the motion? Okay, any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I more than second her statements because I want that bike trail along the river all the way to Mesilla to start with. And that's really key to our area because I know Highway 28 is a wonderful bike trail, but it's also a very dangerous bike trail. And there are no facilities at all along there, and people get in trouble all the time down there because they don't have any bathrooms, they don't have anywhere really to stop, so we need to really work on that trail along the river. So,
Absolutely, yes.
thank you.
Anybody else needs to?
Yeah, we have public comment.
Okay.
Mr. Alberto Nicolas Lopez from IMIP.
Could you come to the podium, please?
I want to make the presentation in Spanish for Greg speak for me for the technical terms. Sorry. Sí. Okay. En lo que pone la presentación, solamente quiero avanzar, quiero platicarles respecto al el plan que tenemos en Juárez de la movilidad ciclista. ¿Sí? Es un plan bien ambicioso que se ve a unos 15, 20 años de distancia, pero igual tenemos una etapa inicial, la cual está localizada donde vamos a tener el paso de los BRT, ¿sí? De los sistemas BRT. Si podemos avanzar. Ok, tenemos un plan de movilidad ciclista en el cual nosotros estamos basando para lograr la intermodalidad entre transporte público, bicicleta, peatones y automóvil, para tener una mejor movilidad y una mejor intermodalidad. Adelante, por favor. Hay que desarrollar las políticas y los proyectos para infraestructura ciclista. Adelante. Sí, para favorecer la intermodalidad, como comenté, sobre todo la bicicleta, transporte público. Adelante. Ok. Se desarrolló un diagnóstico con la movilidad ciclista con estudios de demanda en Juárez. O sea, ahorita actualmente es incipiente, tenemos menos del 1% de los viajes se hacen en bicicleta. ¿Sí? Adelante. Se hizo una consulta pública, se socializó con la gente, los grupos ciclistas, las asociaciones, las universidades en Ciudad Juárez. ¿Sí? Se desarrollaron las redes ciclistas y se priorizaron los proyectos de infraestructura. Esta es la malla de Juárez, ¿sí? La malla vial de Juárez. Adelante, por favor. ¿Sí? En la cual vemos cómo tenemos la red vial primaria, la red vial secundaria y la partición modal que tenemos por ahí. Tenemos que el 53% está en auto y el ciclista, como les comentaba ahorita, tenemos menos del 1%. ¿Sí? Adelante. Adelante, por favor. Esta es la línea de BRT que tenemos ahorita funcionando. Se llama Presidencia Tierra Nueva. Y está en proyecto una segunda línea que va por Paso de Triunfo de la República y Avenida Tecnológico. Adelante, por favor. ¿Sí? Ahí la podemos ver con los puntos rojos, las estaciones que están proyectadas para el BRT en Ciudad Juárez. Y como les comentaba, se han definido unas zonas de atención prioritaria o de atención inicial para el proyecto de bicicleta y desde luego bicicleta pública, que es la zona del PRONAF, la zona donde están los campus universitarios, que ha sido el grupo de gente que ha sido más receptivo o más dispuesto a operar, a hacer viajes usando bicicleta. ¿Sí? Adelante, esa es la etapa de diagnóstico, de socialización, en la cual tuvimos una gran aceptación por parte de la sociedad de Juárez. Adelante, adelante. ¿Sí? Y bueno, ya se desarrollaron las estrategias en todo para el plan de movilidad ciclista. Adelante, adelante. Entonces se definieron estas estructuras para rutas de bicicletas integradas. Bueno, primeramente desarrollar la infraestructura, o sea, los caminos de bicicleta, la construcción de la red ciclista y el mantenimiento de las redes ciclistas. Porque muchas veces se construyen y se dejan ahí. Adelante. Pero a la par también necesitamos una adecuación de normatividad, una organización con la gente de las instituciones de gobierno y sobre todo para dar seguridad, mantenimiento y la promoción de la bicicleta. Adelante. Ok, adelante, por favor. Se han creado instituciones, están propuestas instituciones para la implementación y para el monitoreo, ¿sí? Adelante, y para la sanción. Adelante, por favor. Entonces ahí vemos la red vial y dónde es la zona de inicio. Sí, los dos corredores BRT y la zona de inicio de red ciclista. Adelante. Y esta es una vista más agrandada de la zona también del PRONAF. Pero hay otra zona que ahorita la vimos, adelante, en la presentación anterior. Adelante, por favor. Adelante. Esta es la zona que tiene mucho que ver con la zona del centro del Paso. ¿Sí? Esta es la zona del centro de Juárez donde se van a localizar estaciones de BRT, ¿sí? Y se están desarrollando proyectos históricos, culturales, de servicios y equipamiento en toda la zona café, en la zona café que se ve por ahí, donde hay zonas peatonales y recuperación de los sitios históricos de Ciudad Juárez. Ahí vienen planteadas las rutas ciclistas que están propuestas y las zonas peatonales que están en desarrollo. También tenemos zonas de estacionamiento público para hacer, en un dado caso, el park and ride y la propuesta de 5 cicloestacionamientos distribuidos en esa zona. Adelante. Bueno, ¿qué sigue? Tenemos que hacer los proyectos ejecutivos de los caminos ciclistas, ¿sí? Y estamos terminando ahora en julio los proyectos ejecutivos de la segunda línea de BRT, que va por Paso de Triunfo, que va a operar para lograr la intermodalidad con bicicleta y peatónica. Y bueno, desarrollar la obra. Adelante. Es nada más lo que traigo. Muchas gracias. ¿Hay alguna duda, alguna pregunta?
Estupendo, fantástica idea. Yes, ma'am.
Primeramente, muchas gracias por su presentación. Yo creo que es una presentación excelente que explica la conexión entre Juárez y El Paso y las oportunidades que tenemos en transportación, especialmente con las bicicletas, no con los ciclistas. ¿No hubo discusión en sus grupos que participaron sobre la posibilidad de convencer al gobierno federal en ambos lados de la frontera en establecer una línea de ciclistas en el puente para que pueda cruzar gente de un lado al otro?
Nosotros junto con el MPO del Paso siempre hemos tratado de hacer la comunicación entre las dos ciudades, la comunicación binacional, lo más expedita que se pueda y siendo lo más eficientes en este sentido. Como todos sabemos, el uso del automóvil, bueno, nos representa mucha más espacio, mucha más infraestructura y más costosa para el intercambio, en contrario a los sistemas de transporte público y los sistemas de bicicletas. Hay unas propuestas en las cuales dotar un carril exclusivo para bicicletas. Digo, no hay una propuesta, hay unas ideas más que nada, unos inicios para lograr que la gente ciclista o la gente de transporte público tenga prioridad de paso en el puente, ¿verdad? Pero bueno, eso se tendrá que ver entre los dos gobiernos, sobre todo ahora que Juárez, el estado de Chihuahua y Juárez son los, vamos a llamarlo así, los dueños de la infraestructura de los puentes, tanto el Paso del Norte como el de Isleta, Zaragoza, y también el de Tornillo y Santa Teresa, ¿sí? Ahora los administradores de los puentes es la ciudad Juárez, ¿sí? Entonces hay mucha más facilidad para ello.
Gracias.
Okay?
Otra.
Would it be possible to get a copy of this?
I was
Yeah, of
going to
course.
ask.
I will leave the presentation here.
I was going to ask, yeah.
And Mayor, just in summary, I wanted to just say in English that I asked about, in this planning for bicycle paths in Juarez that's extensive, as we saw, that includes trying to have more connectivity with El Paso, whether or not it's feasible, whether there has been any discussion with the federal governments on both sides of the border about having a lane for bicyclists, cyclists between Juarez and El Paso.
Absolutely, yes.
And there's some ideas about that, but I guess we need to do some more work.
We have to go on it. We have to work on it with MPO, with all the transportation agency in the USA and in Mexico.
Sí, gracias.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Madam Chair, I think what,
To second the.
Oh, sorry.
original motion.
Okay.
Yes, I'll second that.
I think just what I
There
would
was
like,
a second already.
Oh, yes.
Mayor
Sorry.
from Trujillo had second.
I would just like to reiterate is that, you know, we've had a lot of coordination with our MPO counterparts in Ciudad Juarez, so certainly I thank Nicolas for being here. And then furthermore, what I want to ensure that everybody understands that this map is just an illustration. We are not determining where these routes are gonna go. So I don't want anybody to walk away and say, well, on the map that you showed on this date, designated, say, for example, New Mexico 404. We do know that there are roadways that are already designated, bike routes and things of that nature. But again, is that our goal here at the MPO is to provide the opportunity or a framework so that this could be utilized for the identification of future projects. Okay, so this is just an illustrated map. We are not going in and saying that it's gonna be on a certain facility, because part of the survey that we wanna do is understand, as it was explained by the MPO earlier, is that this wayfinding is to look at cultural, historic, and also the existing infrastructure like the river trail. Okay?
Right. Yes.
One other thing to consider as we embark on this, exactly what you mentioned, which is existing trails, because the city is working on, the city of El Paso is working on trails within various districts. And so that connectivity would be great to have a contiguous trail. Also, we had looked at existing parks, looking for ways to create connectivity between parks. So that people who are already at the park, if they felt they wanted to explore part of the trail, they could. We also wanted to look at connectivity to mass transit, in case folks wanted to be connected to mass transit. And then the last thing that I think we really do need to think through is, as this contiguous trail is created using existing assets, how do we ensure that it has a similar feel and look so that people know they are on a contiguous trail? Because the river trail was built, like 20 years ago, and so what are the ways that in terms of creating the wayfinding or the look or the feel of it, and the city's already embarked on some of their trails, the Paso del Norte Health Foundation is building out the Playa Drain. And so instead of all of them looking differently, how can we help create the feel of a contiguous space? So that's, I think that's going to be a kind of a challenge going forward.
Yeah, Judge, I think in terms of branding, certainly when we go out and we engage the public, you know, their feedback would be very important. So we certainly want to have this system that comprises of 7 segments and then capitalize on the community need and their identification. So for example, is that, like you mentioned, the Playa Drain, it's my understanding that it'll go through 2 high schools in the Lower Valley, Riverside and Isleta. And so certainly, not only the high school and to include the school district, but also the feeder schools that go through those 2 schools is to engage that community to see what they would like. But I think in the end is that in terms of branding, we should certainly have a uniform branding so that everybody understands that they're on segment 1 of 7, and certainly give the community the opportunity to have something aesthetically pleasing.
Excellent. Any further comment? Okay, there is a motion and a second on the table. Those in favor of approving indicate by saying, there's somebody else? Okay, come to the podium.
Mr. Scott White?
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Congratulations, and thank you for offering to serve. We appreciate all that you've done. Good morning to the Transportation Policy Board, and I want to thank you all for hopefully what you're about to do. This is an opportunity to really bring balance back to our transportation network, add amenities that weren't there before, and really make our region something that other places look to, rather than we have to look to there and there and say, this is what we want. It'll be here now. We can be the envy that everybody is talking about. This can be the quality of life driver that brings those businesses and those companies here, that brings those job seekers, that ends that brain drain, because we provide those amenities that people are looking for, not just parks, but easy way to get to those parks, easy way to get to work, choices in transportation that gives everybody the option that they see fit, rather than saying there is only one way. So hopefully you're all going to approve this, and if you do, I want to thank you in advance. And we will certainly, hopefully, be here more often, rather than saying, please don't do this, but saying thank you for what you're going to be doing. I'm Scott White with El Paso Bicycle Pedestrian Coalition, and hopefully on behalf of everyone who walks, bikes, and takes transit in our region, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. All right. Any further discussion or comment? Okay. All right. Yeah, so those in favor of this motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? Motion passes. We'll go to item 4.
So, item number 4 is discussion action for the appointment of the 2016-2017 Executive Committee members.
Okay, as chair, I like to appoint the following members to the Executive Committee. Representative Moody, Mayor Leeser, Mayor Javier Perea, Trent Doolittle, City Representative Walter Miller, Mr. Bob Bielek from TxDOT, Mr. Vincent Perez from the county. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Any further discussion? Those in favor of this motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? The motion passes. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, is that at this point now you can appoint the chair and the vice chair for the executive committee?
Okay. Chair. Aye. would say. Yes, Representative Moody.
Yeah, usually.
Representative Moody to be the chair and Mayor Leeser the vice chair.
Well, you just appoint them, we don't have that.
You don't have to.
You do have to act. Yes.
Do you have to vote?
Yes.
You move, Representative Gonzalez, second by Mr. Miller, by Representative, excuse me, Representative Miller. Any further discussion? Those in favor of this motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? The motion passes.
Next is item number 8 for the discussion action to direct the executive committee to review the New Mexico Department of Transportation request to review membership in light of new guidance from Federal Highway Administration.
Okay, who's going to, okay.
Madam Chair, first of all, I appreciate the accommodations and my apologies for having to leave a little bit early. I wanted to be sure that I was here to present this to you. Recently, we had some training, and from our planning section, it is our interpretation of the regulations that the South Central Regional Transit District, who services this metropolitan planning organization's urbanized area, should be included as part of this board. At this point, we are respectfully requesting that the TPB direct the executive committee to at least have the discussion and then move forward with a recommendation to the TPB for future action.
Right. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
The motion is
Direct
to direct the executive committee to make a recommendation to the full board.
Yes. Any further discussion?
Well, let me just say, as part of discussion, I think it makes a lot of sense to have this organization a part of the MPO. I know we always have issues about the size of the MPO. I'm sure the executive committee will be discussing that, and maybe it's again another opportunity to review the size of the MPO and where there might be some adjustments. But I would think that this organization would be critical to be a part of this MPO.
Representative No?
In light of the changes in the rules, do we need a recommendation from the executive committee, or should we just go ahead and, I mean, is there a choice? I don't think we have a choice, is there?
Yes, we do.
Is there? Okay.
So we need Dr. No, we as the MPO need to brief the executive committee on the changes in the law so that we are in compliance, and certainly once we make that.
That's what I meant. If to be in compliance, we need to go ahead and move on this.
No,
then,
sir.
Then why postpone it by putting it through some more bureaucracy? Now,
To the chair, let me just make the comment that my interpretation of the federal regs and rules is different than Mr. Doolittle's, and that there are two options for this board. One is to invite that organization to the proverbial dinner table and have a seat at the dinner table, or to designate somebody on the TPB who's already representing a transportation provider to represent all transportation providers, thereby maintaining the same number of members on the TPB. So those are two different options. The law doesn't require that this organization be made a member of this TPB body. The TPB may designate, for example, Mr. Benachek, who's representing the largest transportation provider in this area, as a representative of all transportation providers, including the New Mexico body. So those are kind of the options that I think the executive committee will need to vet, and then make a recommendation to the TPB.
Madam Chair, we discussed very briefly some of that stuff, and as was mentioned, I think there's some disagreement, but again, I think that's why we are requesting at this point that it go before executive committee. That way that information could be presented by the MPO staff, and then ultimately executive committee can move forward with the recommendation.
I think it
Okay.
should be. Thank you. Okay, so it will remain as the motion and the second on the table. Those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? It goes to the executive committee.
Thank you again, Madam Chair,
for the accommodation. You're welcome.
Changing the agenda.
Next.
Next, we take item number 6, and that is discussion and action to approve the recommendations from the TPAC to amend the Horizon 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the Horizon 2015-18 Transportation Improvement Program, the Horizon 2017-2020 TIP to program the railroad highway crossing on O'Hara Road Project, MPO ID number M641X CN E100260 to install new gates and upgrade flashing lights using $375,000 of Rail Crossing Highway Safety Improvement Program funds in fiscal year 2018.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and TPB members. Greg McNichol with the TPAC. Pretty straightforward action, obviously going to make for safer crossings. I think it's a win-win project and recommend it to you for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Those in favor of this motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? The
Thank you.
motion passes. Thank you.
Next, we have item number 7, and that is discussion action to authorize the Transportation Policy Board chairperson to execute the project grant agreements between the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization and subrecipients New Mexico South Central Regional Transit District, Project Amistad, and City of Socorro for fiscal year 2015 Federal Transit Administration Section 5310, Enhanced Mobility for Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities, El Paso Urbanized Area Grants.
Mr. Mesa.
Good morning, board members, chairperson. Fred Mesa with the El Paso MPO. Basically, a simple administrative move on approving the project grant agreements. These are specifically for FTA 5310 funds that were distributed for fiscal year 2015. We just recently did that in May. This move is required for FTA purposes. In order to submit the application, we have to have a grant agreement with those subrecipients of the funds.
Okay. Any comments?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those against? The motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mesa. Next.
Next, we have item number 9, and that is the approved request Transportation Policy Board members from the meeting, and I have Representative Emma Acosta, Representative Cesar Blanco, County Commissioner David Garcia, Representative Marisa Marquez, Mr. Ted Marquez, Mayor Javier Perea, and Representative Courtney Nyland.
Move to approve.
Those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Those against? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have reports.
Next, we have reports on item number 10, and that is the announcement of the New Mexico Transportation Alternative Program call for projects for federal fiscal years 2018 and 2019.
Good morning. Christina Stokes from El Paso MPO. As this is a report, there's no action.
Bring the mic closer to you, please.
As this is a report, there's no action needed. Approximately 106,582 TAP large urban funds for the New Mexico TAP program for fiscal years 2018 and 19 are available. This program call is for the New Mexico portion of the El Paso MPO region. For fiscal year 2018, the amount available is $52,564, and for fiscal year 2019, the amount available is $54,018. The project call opened on July 18th, and the deadline to submit project packets is August 15th, 2016 at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Complete TAP project application packets include 3 hard copies and 1 electronic version of the application, and specific forms demonstrated we have listed on our website is the project identification form for New Mexico, New Mexico's project feasibility form, and the El Paso MPO project request form. We are using the same documents that New Mexico DOT has distributed across their state. The only form that the MPO is using for our region is the project request form, as everyone is familiar with that form. And we will be processing all the applications and the forms through as listed in our timeline. The forms and the funds for New Mexico are for projects that are in New Mexico. Eligible New Mexico agencies that submit applications for this call for our MPO area may also request to apply for additional funds through the New Mexico statewide competitive process using the same application. They would just merely need to let me know or let the MPO know that they want to also request the state funds, and we will forward that application to the state. We have on the screen for you what we have posted on our website. Each of the documents that I have mentioned, there is also the guide for the program as well as the application form. There are links to helpful information and resources that will help complete the forms. The timeline as well is on that website as well. And if there are any questions that I may answer now, I'd be happy to do so.
Any comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Next, we have item number 11, and that is monthly reports or announcements from the chair.
At this point, I don't have any monthly reports.
You already gave us your big announcement.
Out of order.
Okay, and the next one is the next meeting. Oh, no executive session has been requested, right?
No, ma'am.
All right.
So the next meeting of the Transportation Policy Board is scheduled at 9 a.m. on the 19th day of August to be held at the offices of the El Paso MPO.
All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Okay. Those against, indicate by saying, don't. Yeah. This meeting is adjourned at 10 o'clock. Wow. Thank you all for coming.